poor, he says.
My hand does not shake. He is crying into an empty cup, and he will not look up. 7 years ago, the wine in that cup went into my mouth instead of his, and I went down on the floor of my own wedding in front of 200 people who were relieved about it. Everyone under this roof believes he did it.
So did I.
Until tonight. Now he says the dead woman's name out loud and asks her to forgive him, and 3 feet from his chair stands a maid with a full pitcher, saying nothing, because the woman who saved my life is watching from the doorway to make certain of it. There is a particular quiet a woman learns after she has been made small on purpose. If you know the one I mean, you already know how this feels from the inside.
Stay a while.
Subscribe if you want to. You don't have to sit through this part by yourself. 3 days before he wept into that cup, I was skimming fat off a stock pot at 5:30 in the morning. And I was happy. Put that on the record. The Teague house wakes from the bottom up. Furnace first. Then Junie down the back stairs in her house shoes, arguing with a radio show nobody else can hear. Then bread. By 6 the kitchen smells like scorched coffee, wet wool, and a mop bucket nobody has emptied since Thursday. 7 years of that. Every stair has its own sound. Mrs. Odom came in at 10 past with her coat still on, which she never does. The room went quiet on its own. The Ramirez court arrives Wednesday. The alpha comes himself. There is an arrangement being discussed for Miss Rosalind. We will not discuss it in this kitchen. Junie whistled low. Somebody dropped a lid. The skimming went on. Skim, tap, skim. That is the thing about a body that has been through something. Mine has better manners than I do. The hands kept their rhythm. The face did what a trained face does. Underneath, something cold turned over slowly, the way a fish turns in a bucket. Wednesday. In a house whose baseboards I have scrubbed on my knees. Under a roof chosen because it sat 40 minutes and 1 river away from anything he had ever touched. You'll want to be somewhere else, Junie said later. Both of us bent over the linens. Big houses like that. Their people take over the whole downstairs and treat us like furniture. I've seen worse furniture. She laughed.
So did I.
My hands were shaking and the sheet hit it. Mrs. Odom found me at 11 with her list. You'll pour for him. Personally. Every meal and whatever he asks for between. There are girls with more front of house. There are girls who rattle the china when a man with a title looks at them. The pencil tapped twice. You have the steadiest hands in this house. That is the entire reason. Don't make it complicated. So it came to me as a promotion. Upstairs, sitting on the edge of the bed, 2 fingers found the medallion under my collar. Hammered silver, the size of a thumbnail, warm off the skin. It dulls me. Scent, voice, the exact set of a face, all turned down low the way you turn down a radio without shutting it off. 7 years without one bad night. 5 days. It had to hold 5 days. Said out loud to an empty room, that sounded reasonable, which is how you know a thing is not. Wednesday came in gray and hard off the river. Their cars filled the drive at 4. From the pantry window, the court unloaded itself into the front hall the way weather arrives.
He came out last.
Unbroken white, coat to collar to cuff, and the cuffs washed so many times they had gone soft as paper. In his bloodline you wear white for the dead. A woman explained that to me at 19, while telling me I had chosen the wrong color for a fitting. That coat had not been in front of me since the morning we married. Well, he's not hard to look at, Junie said behind me, arms full of chargers. He's not. That is the only sentence I spoke all afternoon that was completely true. They sat down at 8. 12 at the table. Candles the length of a forearm. The room smelled of hot beeswax and cold silver polish, and that smell belongs to me now until I die. Mr. Teague talked. Miss Rosalind sat straight-backed in dove gray. The court arranged itself around him the way filings arrange around a magnet. In on his right with the pitcher. Eyes down. That is the whole job. Down, pour, step back, breathe out through the nose where nobody hears it. He never glanced up. His hand lay flat on the cloth beside the cup. There was a ring on it that I held once for 4 seconds, while somebody told me to repeat after them. The wine went in without a tremor. Back to the doors. All the way to the doors. And then, because 7 years of pretending does not go all the way down, my eyes came up. He had already turned in his chair. Not toward the table.
Toward me.
Head tipped very slightly, the way you turn when your own name gets said in a crowded room and you cannot find who said it. Nobody noticed. The talk went on. Miss Rosalind laughed at something. He held it one beat, then another, then a third. That is one beat past what a man gives furniture. Out in the corridor, back flat against cold plaster, pitcher in both hands. My hands were perfectly steady. That was the part that frightened me. 11 minutes in the linen closet, standing between the shelves in the dark, folding a napkin that was already folded. Anyone who has hidden knows the closet is not for crying. It is for getting your face back on straight. Mine took 11 minutes and one hard shove against a shelf that left a bruise I found 4 days later and could not account for. Junie was waiting outside. She looked at the napkin and did not ask. You've gone the color of the tablecloth. It's warm in there. It is a closet, Bailey. That is my name here.
Bailey.
It has been mine longer than the other one ever was. The other one I do not say. It surfaces on its own when a car backfires, or when somebody grabs my wrist to keep me off a hot pan, and then it has to go back down like a knife picked up by accident. Here is the whole of it once, and then we move. 19 years old. A family with a little money and no standing. A court with standing and a reason to want something from outside itself. I was the something. 3 meetings before the wedding. Perhaps 40 words across all 3. Every one correct, none of them warm. His mother caught me alone that Friday, looked at me the way you look at a stain, and said her son was better off dead than lowered by the likes of me. Cruelty, I thought. It was a schedule. Nobody told me that yet. They married us in the old hall on a Saturday. At the feast a cup came up to my mouth. My throat went to fire. The floor came up. The last clear thought I had was that somebody in that gilded room had measured out my death and stood there watching me drink it. Aurora had the antidote in me inside for minutes. She was head of staff. She has been the whole of my family since. Whoever did it meant it to finish, she said. And the safest dead woman is one with no body to argue about. So my coat went over the rail of the Greenlawn Avenue Bridge into Blackwater. A story went around the house about a frightened bride who had not wanted to go on. The court found that easy enough to believe about a country girl. Searchers walked the bank 2 days while I lay under a tarp in the back of a produce truck with my jaw wired shut around a scream. She gave me the medallion in a rest stop parking lot outside Grove City.
You're Bailey now, she said.
The other one drowned so this one could breathe. Not once in 7 years did I ask where she got it. Thursday, he stopped a room for me. Mid-morning. Yellow parlor.
Coffee for 9.
My back was half turned at the sideboard when the talk cut off all at once, the way a room goes quiet in the wrong way. You. Lower than 7 years of remembering had kept it. Come here. Eyes on the 3rd button of his coat. Sir. Look at me. Look at the mouth. It reads as obedience. It is a trick. He studied me the way you study a word you know you have read before.
Slow.
Unhurried. He has all the time in the world and has never once had to pretend otherwise. What is your name? Bailey, sir. Bailey. He turned it over. How long in this house? 7 years. Something crossed his face and did not stay long enough to name. Forgive me. You reminded me of someone. Back at the sideboard, my hand found the pot handle and did not shake. Miss Rosalind Teague watched every second of it from the window seat over the rim of her cup. 24 years old. Not stupid. Not cruel. Inconvenient in ways I did not appreciate yet. He does that with you, she said as I passed. Miss. Looks. He hasn't looked at me once like that. No jealousy in it. A woman doing arithmetic. Do you know why? No, miss. She let me go. She kept watching. That afternoon he did a thing that will not put itself down. The stable boy is 14 and cannot finish a sentence without going back to the start of it. He ran his bicycle into the drive right under the nose of the Alpha's car. Somebody older started shouting. I braced for the rest of it. He got out, went down on his heels on the cold gravel, so his eyes sat under the boy's eyes. Asked one question, then waited through the whole stammered answer. The entire wreck of it, right to the end. Never finished a single word for him, then answered him the way you answer a man, and sent him off grinning. At the pantry window my dish towel went cold in my hands. It proves nothing. A man can be gentle with a child and still be what he is. Those exact words in my own head. Gossip found me at supper, unasked, the way it always does. 7 years in white, said one of the Ramirez drivers, enjoying himself. Never taken another. The council has been at him since the 2nd year. This business with Miss Teague is theirs, not his. He agreed to sit in the room. That is all he agreed to. For a wife he had 1 day, said somebody else. For a wife he had 1 day. My plate went to the sink.
Washed. Dried.
Put away. Junie asked if I was ill. The pork had been rich, I said. That night the gallery window showed me the garden in the dark, and him standing in it among the hedges with his hands behind his back. Alone. The way a man stands at a graveside. A house full of people who would come running at a word. A marriage being arranged over his head. And he had walked out into the cold to be by himself. He looked up. I stepped back from the glass like it had burned me. Servants love a tragic story. That is all this is. I told myself so, lying flat in bed with my eyes open, and then spent 2 hours building reasons it might not be, which is not what a woman does when she believes herself. Because here is where it goes if the gossip is true. If he did not do it, somebody in that hall did. Somebody stood in that room, watched me go down, counted me among the dead, and has been walking around ever since, perfectly satisfied with their work. You stayed this far. I noticed. There is a part one have not told you yet, the part where I find out whose hand was actually on the cup, and walking up to that alone is not something I want. Subscribe and stay close. This is where it stops being about the past. Friday nights belong to Aurora. 3 rooms over the old carriage house. Dried lavender, lamp oil, and never once a week without a jar on the sill. Ditch flowers, she calls them. She walks the long way back from the market along the fence line, picks whatever is there, puts it in the chip jug. My Wendell always liked the ragged ones. She says it every time. It stopped being a sentence years ago and became part of the room. The kettle was on before my coat was off. Her hands came up on either side of my face, the way they have since I was 19 and could not lift my own head. You're not sleeping. I pour for him twice a day. I know what you do.
Sit. She poured.
Her hands are 71 years old and better than mine. He looked at me properly, Aurora. 9 people watching. He asked my name. And you gave him one. I gave him yours. The medallion came out from under my collar on its chain, and the lamp put a coin of light on the ceiling through it. Can these wear out? She took it between thumb and finger without lifting it off me. Everything wears, she said. 7 years softening a face into someone else's face. 7 years pitching a voice down. 7 years pulling a scent so far under that a thing with his nose walks past you in a corridor and gets nothing. That is a great deal to ask of a piece of silver the size of a fingernail. So it's failing. I said it was working. She let it drop against my chest. Here is what it is not like. It was set against him in particular. That is what it was made for. So the nearer he stands, the harder it pushes, and the faster it spends itself. Distance is the whole medicine, child. I stand at his elbow 4 times a day. Yes, she said. You do. Something crossed her when she said it. Fear for me, I decided. There has been a long time since to think about that. She got up and fussed with the stems on the sill, straightening what did not need straightening. When that lot take themselves back over the river, I am taking my week. 2 years owed. I'll go and see my Wendell. It is a long way and I keep putting it off, and that is a poor way to treat a boy." She looked back over her shoulder, her whole face gone soft and far away. "Next time I'll take you. The pair of you would be thick as thieves inside an hour." "That would be lovely," I said and laughed. We sat until 11. She talked about the future the way she does, as if it were a room in this house we simply had not opened.
Her week off.
A little place with a yard out past Reynoldsburg, one day, where no court has ever bothered to look. Me in something better than a service apron. Her at the table with her feet up telling me I had oversalted it. For about an hour, every word of it was true. Take that hour. There is not much of it left. Saturday afternoon taught me the other thing. Corridor outside the small library, tray of glassware, waiting for the room to clear. It did not clear. There is a man in the court called Ambrose Ott. Silver rings, good suit, the kind of 40-year-old who says sir like he is doing you a favor. On Thursday, he told the Alpha where a certain payment had gone. By Saturday, that turned out to be untrue. The Alpha did not raise his voice, did not stand. He asked Ott to repeat Thursday's sentence, then asked him to repeat it again, then sat in the quiet and let the man hear it a third time in his own mouth with nobody helping him. 90 seconds. By the end, Ott had both hands flat on the table to keep them still, and sweat along his hairline in a cold room. "You will not be in Columbus on Monday," the Alpha said, in the tone a man uses to accept coffee. Nothing broken. Nobody touched. The coldest thing I have ever watched a person do. The tray made it to the kitchen. My hand had to hold the counter edge a moment. Junie asked if I had turned my ankle. Here is what it did to me, and it is not what you would think. Certainty did not come back. Everything got worse because now there were two of him. The man on the gravel with his eyes under a stammering boy's eyes. The man in the library taking another man apart without lifting a hand. Same man. Neither one cancels the other. A man can be kind and still be capable. A man can be capable and still be innocent of one particular Saturday 7 years ago. That night I told Aurora I wanted him gone by Friday, and my whole body meant it. Then I went to the pantry, found Mrs. Odom's roster, and moved myself onto the late service. So that when he sat up alone, the tray would be mine. The pencil was in my hand, and I thought, this is stupid. My name went down anyway.
Sunday.
Near midnight. The dining room. He had sent the court to bed. 3 decanters stood empty at his elbow, and a 4th was going. The candles had burned low enough to be dangerous. A plate sat in front of him that nobody had touched. Hot wax. Cold silver. He did not look up. Pour. I poured, and my hand did not shake. He drank, set it down, pushed his fingers up into his hair, and held his own head as if it had gotten heavy. "Do you know how long I was married?" "No, sir." "One day." The laugh came out wrong.
"One."
She came to that house with her whole heart in her hands, and I gave her nothing. Not one kind word. I looked at her like a piece of business. My mother had made it very clear what would happen if I made it obvious, so I made nothing obvious at all, and told myself there would be time to explain. "Do not move. Do not set the pitcher down. He will hear it touch the wood." They all thought I was forced into that match. Lower. It was mine. I asked for it. Saw her at a market in the Bottoms with dirt on her hands, and asked for her by name. Then let every person in that hall believe I had been made to do it because it was safer for her, and she stood in front of me 3 days thinking she was a mistake somebody had agreed to. He turned the cup slowly on the cloth. She died believing that. Then he said my name, my old one, out loud, at a table, in a room with one servant in it. The way a man says a name he has not been allowed to say in 7 years. Then he asked her to forgive him. There has been a long time to work out what happened to me. This is the best I can do. Not joy. Not vindication. The floor of my own life coming out. Because if this was true, then I did not escape a murder. I walked out of a burning house, left an innocent man inside it, handed him the fire, and he has carried it 7 years, calling it his own crime. A secret you can keep. A debt you cannot. He kept going, the way drunk men do, down into the part he had not meant to open. It is not only her. 7 years ago, I sent 41 men into the Deschler run on information I did not check. They went in at 2 in the morning. 9 came back. He looked at the empty plate. I have written every family. Every year. Most do not answer. They are right not to. A long breath went out of him. I am so tired of surviving people I failed. I took the cup out of his hand.
Understand me.
Not as a servant. No tray, no curtsy. I reached across and took the wine away from a man who had had enough of it, set it down out of his reach, and he let me.
He looked up then.
Not searching. Just looking the way you look at somebody who has done you an ordinary kindness at an hour when nobody is watching. Thank you, Bailey. 4 seconds. 2 people in a room. At the doors, my hand flat on the wood. Behind me, a chair moved wrong. Burnt almond and church incense. That smell was in my mouth before it was in the air because I have tasted it going down in a white dress in front of 200 people. It gets into the soft part behind your teeth and it never entirely leaves. He was on the floor between the chair and the table. The last of the wine going dark into the carpet. His chest working far too fast, then not enough. Everything in me that has kept me alive since 19 said one word.
Go.
Service door. Backstairs, coat, cash tin, bridge. Gone by 2. Alive by Tuesday. I went down on the boards beside him instead, got my hands on his face, and screamed the corridor awake. Screamed until doors opened on the floor above. Turned him on his side. Got 2 fingers into his mouth. Told a man, who could not hear me, that he was not doing this. The house came down the stairs in nightclothes. Somebody said his name. Somebody else said poison. Miss Rosalind Teague came in barefoot, took one look, and went straight back out to the telephone without being told. I knelt in the wine with my hands on him. Not who killed me. Who is still killing. 3 days in the yellow room at the top of the house, and I did not leave it. Poison work is not dramatic. It is cloths and water, and the same 6 tasks in a circle. Holding a man's head while his body fights a thing it cannot reach. Counting a pulse at 4 in the morning by a lamp turned to the wall. They let me stay because Miss Rosalind said so. Because his own physician said the maid had done in 90 seconds what his people would have taken 10 minutes to do. Because there was nobody else in that house he did not flinch from. Nobody said the second part out loud. He flinched from all of them. Not from me. My forearm stayed under his shoulders half the night. His fever came up through the shirt into my skin. My own scent came up with the effort and the fear, and the medallion worked the way you feel a motor working through a floor. Distance is the whole medicine. There was no distance. That was the joke of it, and I laughed at it once alone around 3 in the morning. The sound was awful. His mother arrived on the second day. Ophelia Ramirez enters a room the way cold air enters when a door opens somewhere else in the house.
Small.
Not 1 degree softer in 7 years. She crossed to the bed, looked at her son for 4 seconds, then turned and looked at me. You served him. Yes, ma'am. Take her. 11 hours in the back office, off the laundry with a man on the door. She came down near midnight, alone, shut the door, folded her hands on her belly. Stand up. What is your account, girl? The decanters were on the table when I came in. I poured what was there. Same service every night since Wednesday. Servants say a great many things cheaply. Then test the pitcher, ma'am. And the carpet. And me. That got her attention, which I did not want. She came closer. Studied my face longer than anybody had studied it in 7 years. At my throat the silver strained like a stone in a river. There is something about you, she said slowly. Something I cannot place. Have we met? I've never left this house, ma'am. She held it. Then something in her went out all at once, and she sat down on the corner of the desk, which is not a thing that woman does. He was 19 hours married. 19. And the week before, I told him she would ruin him. She smoothed her skirt with one hand. Do you know what it is to watch your son wear white for 7 years, knowing the last thing he heard from you about her was that? I have made him a great many enemies, keeping him safe. I have not made him 1 hour of comfort. She looked back up. If you did this, I will bury you myself. If you did not, you are the only useful person in this house, and I will remember it. Not an apology. I would not insult either of us by calling it one. I walked out of that room having lost my best suspect and gained something I never asked for. He was sitting up when they brought me in, gray right through, the skin around his eyes gone thin. He sent his mother out. I owe you my life, and I am going to ask you for something anyway. Sir.
Sit.
My neck will not do this. He waited until I sat. 7 years ago, somebody poisoned my wife at my own table. My court believes that is the whole of it, a country girl who made an enemy of somebody's ambition. I have never believed it for 1 hour. He turned his cup a quarter turn on the tray, which is what he does instead of raising his voice. She lifted a cup standing at my place. I have gone over that room 1,000 times. It was mine. She took it first. Everyone was so busy being satisfied about her that nobody ever asked the only question worth asking. The room went quiet in the wrong way. You think it was meant for you. I know it was. 7 years hunting the hand that mixed it, and I have never gotten closer than a shipping account in Cincinnati. He looked up. Sunday night in a house I do not own, the same thing came out of the same bottle. Whoever it is has been within arm's reach of me the entire time. And I would very much like the help of the one person under this roof with no reason on earth to want me alive. Strangest 4 seconds of my life. Why me? You had the smell of it before my physician did. And when I said her name out loud in that dining room, you did not move. He held my eyes. Everybody moves. 2 days of work. Let me keep those 2 days, because everything after is heavier and I will not have it swallow them. Ledgers and delivery slips across a table, and Miss Rosalind's list, which she started on her own initiative Sunday night and kept in a hardback notebook like a girl doing a science fair project. Every person who touched that room. Every hour. My name was on it twice, in her neat hand. She looked me dead in the eye when she showed me. You would have written it twice too. I liked her. Inconvenient. On the second afternoon he said something dry about his own counsel, and I laughed. Out loud. Head back. A real one. That sound came out of me, and I did not recognize it. Nothing like it since 19 years old. He looked at me the way a man looks at a bird that has landed near his foot, and said nothing about it, which was the kindest thing available to him. The delivery slips took me to Green Lawn. Not the poison. The flowers. A standing order, small, quarterly, cash out of the household account with the wrong ledger code on it.
6 years of them.
Same florist on Harmon Avenue. Wednesday afternoon, flat gray light, the slip in my pocket. It stood against the far wall, apart from the rest. A memorial stone. Nothing under it. They put those up when there is nobody to bring home. Wendell. 7 winters gone. Lost in the Deschler Run. Far from home, but never from his mother's heart. On the grass in front of it lay a small fresh posy of ditch flowers, tied with kitchen twine. Everything in my body said no. Not her. Not the woman who put the antidote in you. Not the hands that held your face. My feet were already moving. She had gone up to the house an hour ahead of me. Told Mrs. Odom she would sit with him so the girl could rest. Out of that cemetery at a dead run across 4 lanes of Harmon Avenue, breath tearing. One prayer going in time with my feet. Let me get there first. The door to the yellow room stood open. The man they had put on it was down against the frame, chin on his chest. He lay beside the bed with one arm flung out, his chest going too fast in the way, I know now, the way you know a song. Aurora sat in the chair with an empty glass in her hand and her face wet, calm as a Sunday afternoon. I was across the room and on my knees with my hands on him, before I understood crossing it. Aurora. You shouldn't have come back, sweet pea. The antidote. Please. You worked it out. Almost fondly. You always were a clever girl. I gave you too many Fridays. Wendell. Her chin went. He was 22. He went into that ditch at 2 in the morning because a man in a good coat had a piece of paper that turned out to be wrong. They never gave him back to me. There is a stone with nothing under it, and a boy in a hole 100 miles from here. She set the glass on the tray with enormous care, the way she sets down everything. What is a mother supposed to do? Stand in his kitchen 7 years and hand him his wine. Then why wait?
My hands were on his chest.
His heart was doing something I did not like. 7 years, Aurora. Any Tuesday would have done. Because 7 years ago, I stood over your sickbed certain I had killed an innocent girl by mistake. And I smelled it on him when he came to the door. She did not look away, which was the last kindness she had left. He had found his mate. After all that time alone, he had found her, and she was dying under my hands because she picked up the wrong cup at her own wedding. The floor went out from under me for the second time in my life. You knew what we were. I knew. And I thought, let him keep his crown and his long life, and lose the one thing the war can never give back. Let him grieve her to the end of his days, and never learn she walks the earth. Her mouth worked. It seemed a fair trade for my boy. You told me he was glad to be rid of me. Yes. Every week for 7 years, when I asked, you told me that. Because if you had known he grieved you, you would have gone back to him. Her tears ran freely, and her voice did not move at all. Then I lose my Wendell, and I lose you, and he is everything. That is the whole of it. There is no better version. It is the cruelest thing I have ever done to another person, and I am not going to ask you to forgive it. Her hand was at her waist. A small dark vial sat under her fingers. I did not go for it.
There has been time to think about why.
The truth is that taking it off her would have cost me the rest of my life, and some part of me knew that at speed, on my knees, with a man dying next to me. I stood up and took her face in both my hands, the way she has taken mine 1,000 times since I was 19. You pulled me out of that house. You wired my jaw shut and drove me to Grove City, and you have been the only mother I have ever had. So there will be no fighting. There will be asking. Sweet pea. If you let him die, you lose me. Not because I would hate you. I would never manage it. You lose me because I could not look at you, and you know it, and you have known it since those flowers went missing off that grave. Her mouth came apart. Choose me, I said. The way you did at the river. Choose me again. How long she stood there with a son's grave in one hand and me in the other, I could not tell you. Then the vial went into my palm, and her fingers folded mine over it. 3 drops on the tongue, she whispered. Not 4. For stops his heart yourself. Down beside him, stop her out, hands steady.
1, 2, 3.
Nothing, long enough that I said something out loud, I will not repeat. Then his chest dragged in one enormous ragged breath and held it. Let it go. Took another. Found the rhythm.
Kept it.
When my head came up, the chair was empty and the door was open.
She has stayed gone.
He woke in the early evening with the light coming amber through the high windows. His eyes opened and found me. You're still here. I'm still here. He looked at me in that gold light, and his face did the thing it has done since Wednesday. The narrowing, the reaching after a word he cannot place. Miss Bailey. A question in it. My hand went up to my throat. 7 years of sleeping in that medallion, praying over it, checking it in every dark window I passed. It was the wall between me and dying, and somewhere along the line it became the wall between me and everything I wanted. I am so tired of walls. The chain came loose. It went down on the table beside the bed. It rose in his face the way morning rises. Plain features loosening.
Settling.
Becoming a face he had carried 7 years and never expected to see again outside the worst hour of a night. He stopped breathing. The thing in him that is not a man got there half a second before the man did. He said my name, my own name, out loud in my hearing with the light on. It's me. You drowned. His hand came up and touched my cheek like I might come apart. I buried a coat. I never went near that river. I was poisoned the same as you, out of a cup that was never meant for me. Somebody pulled me out half dead and told me a lie to keep me running, and I was 19, and I believed it. My voice went. I did not leave because you were cold. I was taken. I was lied to, and you have been grieving a death that never happened. The sound he made was half sob, half laugh. It is the sound of a man learning the sentence he passed on himself was unjust. 7 years. And I was pouring your wine. A great deal happened in the weeks after.
Here are the parts that cost something.
He ended the Teague arrangement inside 4 days. In person. Standing in front of Miss Rosalind's father with no softening on it, which took the alliance out from under his position at the exact moment his position needed it. His counsel told him the price. He let them finish, then said no. In October he stood up in a hall in the Bottoms in front of 32 families and named himself responsible for the Deschler run. Out loud. On the record. A court stenographer present. That stripped away every protection his mother spent 7 years building around him. It has cost him things I will not list. It is costing him still. I asked him to do that. I never told him why. He does not know that one of those mothers stood in his kitchen for 7 years. He does not know whose hand was on the glass. He believes the poisoner ran into the dark and left no name, and every guard in this state is hunting a person with no face. She is gone, and will stay gone. The daughter carries the mother's secret the way the mother once carried the daughter out of the water. Out of love. At a cost. Asking nothing back. I have wondered since whether keeping her name out of his mouth was right by her.
I still do not know.
If you have ever protected somebody who hurt you, you know the exact size of that silence. There are other women in this city carrying things the same shape, and this is where we find each other. Subscribe if you want to keep hearing from them. We walked the Teague garden last week in the last of the light, and I was laughing at something small and stupid and caught him watching me like a man who cannot quite believe he is allowed to. My terms are set, and he has taken them.
I stay as I am for now.
The bond waits on me instead of the other way around, and when I decide it will be a thing I chose, not a thing done to me while I was unconscious in the back of a truck. There are other women in these old houses who ran the way I ran. Most are still running. Not one of them had somebody kneeling over the bed at 4 a.m, counting drops. That is luck. I know exactly what it cost and who paid it, and that she rides with me for the rest of my life. I have decided to be happy anyway. That is not the absence of the weight. That is picking it up, on purpose, every morning, with steady hands.